This is Derek O'Father with the Medicine Show, and today I'm going to discuss sacred animals in Igbo cosmology, starting first with how animals become sacred, then which animals are considered sacred by our ancestors, until by the end of this video you should know which animals are personally sacred to you, and how you should approach the relationship you have with them, according to our ancestors. If you're new to this channel, I make videos on Igbo spirituality, cosmology, and history. If this is a topic that's interesting to you, hit subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure you get notifications when I drop new videos. Before I start, there's a very popular ilu, which was introduced to most of the world by the book Things Fall Apart, written by Chinua Achebe. And this ilu, or proverb, will teach you what makes an animal sacred in Igbo culture and ancestral thought. So comment below and let me know what your interpretation of this proverb is, what you think it means, and perhaps why. The ilu is, nwatakịrị na-asa aka nwere ike isoro ndị eze na-eri nri. Again, that is, nwatakịrị na-asa aka nwere ike isoro ndị eze na-eri nri. The child who washes their hands can eat with the kings. Comment below with what you believe the meaning of the ilu is. As always, there are no wrong answers, as each answer reveals a truth that is particular to the individual saying it. Before I begin, I want to make a big announcement. The full Igbo calendar is now available for your Apple and Google Calendar. I have created a calendar that tells the 13 moons, 4 market days, and different holidays and correlating rituals across the whole of Igbo land, as well as breakdowns of what they mean and the stories behind them. This is available for all patrons who join our community to support this channel at patreon.com/themedicineshow. So with that being said, let's begin. In the ancestral worldview, life is sacred, and at the core of what I'll say in this video is this idea, though not necessarily in the way you may be thinking. You'll often see things referred to as being sacred by saying that it gives or is life. There is the common saying that wisdom is life. The idea that the things that increase or prolong life are sacred and are to be revered. And even the common saying that one who brings the kola nut brings life. An ilu used to communicate the fact that the oji is sacred. Now, if you're interested in knowing why, comment below and I'll make a video on the topic, as well as the rituals and reason why the oji is central in ancestral spirituality. In saying that life is sacred, all things that give and have life are sacred, even if they themselves are not alive. To understand this, we can look deeper into the idea of personhood and the rights and privileges afforded to an entity that has been ascribed with personhood, especially in the ancestral lens, though it also applies to the modern day. And this is because understanding how our ancestors viewed the idea of personhood and its privileges will let you know which animals are sacred in our culture and which animals are sacred in your own personal life, regardless of what culture you come from. In every culture, there's a philosophical understanding of personhood. What makes something a person, and what do they deserve now that they have been recognized as such? This is what we refer to as human rights. A certain level of human treatment, an acknowledgement of the sanctity of an individual's autonomy and existence. Before our ancestors, these rights and privileges often extended beyond humanity, meaning that personhood and humanity were not always synonymous. And this is for reasons we'll explore towards the end of the video. For our ancestors, there were 2 things that were important to understand in order to get the full picture of how they viewed personhood and what it meant to them. The first is that personhood is not individualized, that you and I share our personhood with multiple other people and things, which leads into the second point, which is that in the Igbo world view, the world is a world of forces rather than a world of things, which not only lends to the idea of shared personhood, but extends beyond to give our individual personhoods a cosmic meaning and path through existence defined by our chi. The idea of shared personhood comes from the acknowledgement that we are the same person as our ancestors and parents, and our descendants the same person as us. This means an individual is a continuum of an existence, the way the wings of a bird are an extension or a continuum of its body, rather than an isolated event, and do not nor cannot function as an isolated event unto themselves. We are a page in a single story, rather than an isolated book onto itself as well, to use another analogy. And through us, our ancestors experienced the world in a different era, as you experienced the world through them in the past. This will be important to remember towards the end of the video when I give examples of how some of these animals came to be regarded as sacred in our worldview. But remember that the promises and vows that you made in a previous life do not discontinue with death, as death is only part of the self-extending experience. I made a video called Ancestors Explained, which goes into the idea of shared personhood, and why ancestors are venerated in the African cosmological systems so frequently. So if you're interested, the link is below. On the idea of individuals as forces rather than things, in the Igbo worldview, the universe exists as a collection of collaborating and interdependent forces. Each of these forces are waves which will appear and function differently on each ripple, but ultimately belong to the same general phenomena. In this worldview, a single wave will appear in different forms as it extends itself through space and time. For example, a obeah is an adept of wisdom, an individual who's able and willing to receive wisdom from the universe, most often in the form of intuition and clairvoyance, and in turn has the ability to tap into Uagon, the universe or world of Agon, for the betterment of others. Uagon is the plane of Agon, and Agon is the universal mind, the Abara that knows what God knows, and shares the same mind as creation itself, meaning that Agon is all-knowingness. And while all things have an Agon, very few things or individuals are able to tap into it at will, like a obeah. A obeah's ability to do this is because Agon, the universal mind, is a wave. Waves manifest in different forms as they ripple through time and space. So Uche Chineke, or the wisdom of the creator and creation, manifests as Agon on the Abara level. This manifests as the obeah, or the clairvoyant, on the human level. In the level of nature, this manifests as a forest, especially Okofia, a dense forest or a jungle that's rich with medicine. On an animal level, this manifests as the tortoise, and this same force manifests as the dog on the mammalian animal level. At each of these levels, the same force is shared, and in sharing the same force, they all exhibit attributes that reflect the nature of that force, with some of its facets more emphasized on one manifestation than the other, giving the illusion of difference between them. Like a clairvoyant, the dog can see the unseen. It knows the character of a person when the person walks into the room without immediate signs. It has an intimate understanding of weather changes and natural events before an ofeke or inadept person would be able to, and can exhibit signs of astral communication. The dog knows how its master feels about a situation or a person when the master is doing all they can to hide it, or isn't showing signs at all. The dog can sense an emotion before it's visible, and its pack instincts allow it to interlock fully into the intentions of the collective, or the intentions of others. It feels the emotions of others as if it's its own. And like a obeah, a dog finds fulfillment in the service of others. Like the force that is Agon, the turtle and tortoise are forces a turtle is able to go into itself, as a obeah must do to find answers, for the universal mind dwells within. This is an attribute it shares with Ejele, the snail, which is also a manifestation of Agon. The slowness of both also reflects the nature of an elder, whom is also a bastion of wisdom and patience, as age enhances both attributes in a person. The energy that is Chukwu manifests as Igwe, the sky, as Anyanwu, the sun, and as Amadioha, an Abara within the sun that enforces justice and universal order, who is also the source of lightning. On a human level, this energy manifests as man, especially a great man. Within the individual, this force manifests as the Chi and the Ikenga, the personal divinity within, or the piece of the creator within each person, and the Ikenga, which is the vital energy or the active kinetic principle within each person, but most specifically within men. In the sky, this energy manifests as Ugo, the eagle. In grasslands, this manifests as the elephant, or Enyi. In the forest, this manifests as Agon, the leopard. And in domesticated animals, this manifests as the ram, or Ebule. The link between Igwe and the leopard is most exemplified in the spotted night sky, and is linked to the use of the leopard pattern to honor great men. Traditionally, this was done with Ishagon, leopard skin, worn in attire or used to decorate a room or a stool of a ruler or leader. Individuals who stood as spiritual, military, financial, cultural, and moral leaders among others. Today, this pattern is reflected in the Ishago attire, which is also worn by titled men, though most often in inverse colors, but with the same spotted pattern as the night sky and the leopard. The feathers of the eagle is also used in honoring titled men, and men who have shined the godliness of their nature onto others as the sun does onto the earth, and the sky does onto ground. The elephant tusk, or the okike, is also used to symbolize the attainment of one's god nature. It is interesting to note that the elephant tusk in this form is known as okike or oduokike, and I explain what odu means in my video Eke Explained, which I'll link below. But it's important to note because an Ozo titled man, or an individual that takes the Ozo title, earns the right to hold the okike, earns the right to hold the oduokike, and is expected to blow the trumpet before arriving to any particular place. So if the individual is coming home, they'll blow it before arriving home. And if the individual is arriving in a new place, they'll also blow it to announce their arrival. Now, if you remember the meaning of the word Odu, the great explosion and the noise it made, as well as what happened thereafter, or what it all meant, you'll understand what is being simulated by this tradition. If you're interested in knowing these hidden meanings and haven't seen the video Eke Explained, the link is below. So often these animals become symbols for what they are attached to metaphysically, and these symbols become the tangible representation of their abstract energy when used for effect in ritual. The abstract concept of innocence, for example, and new beginnings is manifest as the baby chicken. The shell of a turtle is often used in rituals pertaining to protection, as the shell is not only the protector of the turtle, but a manifestation of Ekwensu. I've done a video explaining the very misunderstood concept of Ekwensu, so if you're interested in learning more or understanding it, the link is below. For our ancestors, all members of existence, from people to animals, trees, and physical features such as lakes, forests, mountains, and hills, are entitled to the rights of personhood, and neither sentience nor humanity are necessary prerequisites for this entitlement. This includes the right to existence, access to justice by law, autonomy, the right of property, freedom from torture or abuse, equality before law, and the privileges of humanity, such as honor and gratitude, among others. Now, this is an ideal, as in the age of Ugaka, at the beginnings of humanity, human beings and Chukwu were one, and this ideal was very possible to achieve. In this time, human beings did not sleep, eat, nor hunger, nor did they fend for themselves, but instead had a direct pipeline to Chineke, who sustained them. In some traditions, it was said that human beings were fed azuigwe, or heavenly fish, which came from the sky in this time. In other traditions, it is said that air alone was enough to sustain a human being. And in this era, mankind and the elements of nature spoke a universal language, which was song and dance. In this era, this balance and ability for all members of existence to be without violating each other's autonomy and rights was possible. But when this ended, we entered Ugachi, the age of differentiation, where human beings began to see themselves as something separate from nature and the universe, and distinct from each other. In this era, the wise among us began seeking ways to rebuild the broken link with the universe by building Arushi to channel a line of communication between us and these waves and abstractions and energies that make the universe. And from these Arushi, we receive instructions for sustaining the balance that we once had instinctively, such as Iwala, the laws of the land, which guide human beings in assuring they do not desecrate the land, each other, and its non-human features. If you're interested in a breakdown of the 4 world ages, comment below. I can do a video on it and put it up for vote on Patreon. And now that we've established the reasoning behind considering certain animals sacred, here are a few animals considered sacred in Igbo cosmology. It is important to note that each of them earned this acknowledgement of personhood for reasons that differ by community and person. So the first set of animals, the python, the monkey, the rabbit, and the bushfowl, will be purely community-based. It is also important to note that the community-based animals are numerous, with each community and family or even individual having their reasons for holding particular animals sacred. But what is important to know is the rationale behind it to help in understanding the practice and how it manifests from place to place or even person to person. Whereas the last set of animals I'll describe, the spider and the hornbill, will be more universal as they attain their status from Chineke in the time of the rebuilding of the universe. For cultures primarily in central Igbo land, no animal recurs as often in the sacred pantheon as the python. In communities that revere the python, the status of the python is equal to that of an elder or a great person. If a python enters a home, it is greeted, offered food, and kindly asked to leave through suggestion, rather than coercion or force. If it must be removed, it can only be done by offering it a branch, so that it can wrap itself around it by its own volition. And once it does this, It must be carried back to the forest it came from and allowed to unwrap itself and go home on its own terms and time. What is said in my own community is that if you leave the stick in the forest or the branch in the forest, the python will stay. But if you carry that stick back home, the python will follow you back home. I couldn't give you the rationale or the why the python does that, but I don't know. If the python is seen on a road, it is greeted the way you would greet a neighbor or a family member. If the python is killed by a member of the community, the punishment and regard are equal to the killing of a human being. Upon death by the hands of a human, a python is given a full burial and a funeral ceremony, often by members of the community, the family of those who killed the python, or in some communities by the Osu of the community. The Osu are individuals linked to the central Arishi of a community, either by descending from the Arishi's founder or by swearing oneness with it sometime in the community's past. This idea of oneness is important to remember in order to understand how the python gains its status. For a python's funeral, it is wrapped in cloth and placed in a coffin. In many communities, the family of the python's killer will be compelled to cry and openly display remorse for the wrongdoing. On the other end of life's spectrum, upon the arrival of a newborn child, a visit by a python to the newborn baby is a sign of the baby's good fortune, or the baby being favored by the community's Arishi, which the python is linked to, most often an Arishi to Anna, the Earth Mother, or Nemiri, who based on community goes by the name of the local river. And there's a reason both of them share the python as a symbol, which I'll reveal shortly. But upon visiting a home to see a newborn child, the python is often allowed to stay for multiple days. And if the family can afford to do so, given its own room to lodge as a guest. As an Arishi represents an energy, an abstract, put in tangible form for contact with human beings. Eke the python is a manifestation of the divine feminine and is linked to all feminine Arishi. In ancestral thoughts, a shrine will manifest into a community in multiple forms. The Arishi being a location, which also shares personhood with individuals known as the Osu and the python. And in this case, all three represent a manifestation of the same energy or the same divine spirit. I have a documentary on the Osu, which is important in understanding the origins of Igbo cosmology, called Osu Explained, so I'll leave a link below. But in these communities, or communities that utilize this divine feminine energy, an assault or offense against a python is also an offense or an assault against the Abara being channeled by the Arishi in the community. As all feminine energies come from Nechukwu, there is an intimate link between Nechukwu and the python. But it is also interesting to note that Arishi specifically dedicated to Nechukwu also utilized the alligator, or Agui, as one of her conduits or extensions of her existence. And in many of these communities, sacrifices to Nechukwu are specifically fed to the alligators in that community. This has created a symbiotic relationship between the people who acknowledge the python as sacred and the python in these communities. In these communities, pythons avoid killing or eating livestock and will only feed from what is given to it at the foot of the town Arishi. It is said that a python will skip past a collection of chickens to find an unwanted rat and eat it. But if that chicken is brought to the Abara or the Arishi, the pythons will do the needful. This is one of the many reasons life with pythons is seen as symbiotic on all levels. In my own community, we had a Catholic priest, and to show you how seriously this particular belief is taken by everybody in the community, no matter what your belief system is. In my own community, we had an Anglican priest who was stationed in my own town that was causing a lot of upheaval. Women would go to him and he would tell them that people in their family were holding their destiny or causing them to fail by using witchcraft or whatever. And this was causing a lot of infighting in a lot of families. So much so that a lot of the elder men gathered and asked him to leave, and of course he didn't. And on top of him not doing that, his army of older women fought back and made sure that he stayed. Well, he moved from that to saying that all of the poor people were being oppressed by the family ofo, or staff of spiritual and ancestral authority, being held by the rich men. So the rich men's ofo was making the poor men poor, and in order to break the spell of the poverty, they had to burn all the ofo in the community, most particularly those that belonged to rich men. Again, everybody petitioned to have him leave. Nothing happened. This particular ofo episode even led to violence in the community, as a lot of these young men were trying to forcibly rip the ofo out of people's houses and ambush people and so forth. The final straw was when he had the nerve to go to Njabankwo, our central Irishi, kill a python and lay it on the floor in front of the road to show the power of Jesus or whatever. In less than one day, his precinct head called him in, demoted him, barred him from running a parish, sent him into exile, and at the same time kept him from being lynched by the Christians that he was mobilizing against everybody else. So his own congregation was outraged by what he did once he did that. Prior to this, it was impossible to remove him. But even the old women, who were the strongest contingent for his staying, couldn't stomach what he had done. And that's it. I'm going to make this video a two-parter. So the rest of the video is coming very soon. I didn't want to make the video entirely too long, and I wanted to get the explanation and rationale out of the way, the different communities that consider them sacred, and the story behind what gives them that status. Again, this is Derek Ofadarnwa with The Medicine Shell. If you're interested in hearing part 2, or if you're interested in Igbo cosmology, spirituality, and history, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And as always, support us on Patreon at patreon.com/themedicineshell. As always, thank you for watching.